Ladies and gentlemen, Meet the Press just absolutely humiliated Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. I have never seen the Democrat media embarrass a fellow Democrat like this in my entire life, especially one as prominent as J.B. Pritzker. I mean, she fact checks to his face lie after lie and leaves him stunned, speechless, and rambling like a buffoon because he clearly expected a softball interview. This is even more humiliating than what CNN did to Hakeem Jeffries last week. You guys are going to love this video. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but we're going to get straight into it. Here's J.B. Pritzker claiming what Texas is doing with redistricting their maps is illegal, and the host just instantly fact checks him. Watch.
And all of us need to stand up and speak out and make sure that it's understood across the country that what they're trying to do in Texas is illegal.
Well, Governor, it might be illegal. It's not unprecedented, though, or it might be rare, I should say. But Texas actually tried to redraw districts mid-decade before in 2003, and the U.S. Supreme Court actually upheld the map in that case with the exception of one district. So the argument that Abbott is making is it's not illegal, though they are doing it certainly in an off year.
Now, J.B. Pritzker is gearing up for a 2028 presidential run alongside his elitist buddy Gavin Newsom. But in my opinion, this interview single-handedly ruins his entire presidential run in one sitting. The host drops a massive fact check on literally everything he says. That was just the first one. And J.B. Pritzker is left absolutely hopeless when he realizes he's not going to get away with just spewing blatant lies. It exposes two main reasons why he has no chance at becoming president. Number one, he has an egregious track record to run on. The enormous negative migration out of Illinois, the overwhelming support for illegal immigrants to receive taxpayer funds. He wants boys to play in girls' sports, consistently raising taxes on the residents of Illinois anywhere he possibly can. I'll give him that. That's his one skill. J.B. Pritzker can squeeze some tax dollars out of his citizens better than maybe anybody else. But the second major reason he won't become president is, unlike his slimy buddy Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker can't spin or word salad his way out of that egregious track record. Gavin Newsom will at least get you lost in the white teeth and the hair gel and the word salad. J.B. Pritzker just goes quiet and then turns every conversation towards Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. And I guess third reason, honorable mention, he is just grotesque to look at. I want to believe most Americans don't want that guy representing all of us on the world stage. But because he's gearing up for a presidential run, he's decided to stick his nose in the Texas redistricting battle and harbor all of the Texas Democrats who have fled their state and abdicated their duties. So he can tell people he stood up and fought against Donald Trump and didn't bend the knee, and how he supported democracy because gerrymandering is bad. And then the Meet the Press host pulls up a map of Illinois, which is one of the most gerrymandered, and calls him out to his face.
But I do want to look at the map of Illinois. Let's take a look at this. Despite President Trump winning 44% of the statewide vote in 2024, Republicans hold only 3 of Illinois' 17 districts. These districts seem to be designed to maximize Democratic advantage. What do you say to those who argue that it's hypocritical for you to criticize Texas for partisanship when your state also drew maps to boost your party's standing?
Well, remember that what Texas is trying to do is, again, violate the Voting Rights Act. We didn't. We held public hearings, legislative hearings. People attended them. They spoke out. There was a map that was put out. There were actually changes made to the map. And a map was passed, and it was done at the end of the census, the decennial census. So that's how it's done in this country.
So he admits what I said in a previous video about the Democrats complaining. They know this is legal. They know Texas has every right to do this. They're not even against gerrymandering. They do it themselves. What they're mad about is this is being done at a time where the Democrats are the most unfavorable they've ever been. They don't have a leader. leader, they don't have a vision, they don't have a message. They're not united. Their entire base is radical and bloodthirsty. They want children to be chemically castrated and surgically mutilated. They hate America, so they want open borders. That way we can import the third world and they can siphon off every last bit of wealth we have before we eventually crater. They love socialists like Zohran Mamdani and AOC, and then they turn on those same socialists because they're not radical and revolutionary enough. And Donald Trump is just knocking win after win out of the park as contrast. They're mad because this is their nail in the coffin. As McDonald's founder Ray Kroc said, if I see my competitor drowning, I will walk over and stick a hose in their mouth. And that's why the Democrats are panicking and freaking out. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. They are on the brink of extinction. And for a party that only believes in absolute power, bigger government, the idea that they may be a permanent minority party is unraveling them at the seams. But the host continues. She does not lay off J.B. Pritzker. She brings the receipts and shows him to his face that every organization on redistricting gives Illinois' maps the worst possible grade they can get for having fair districts.
Well, look, sticking on your state's map, every major group that grades the fairness of congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the President of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake, and these Texas Democrats are standing up to what the GOP is attempting to do, which is to steal seats because they know what they've done is wrong. They know that they've made an enormous mistake.
I mean, can you imagine a worse response to her question? Governor, all of these reports say that Illinois is one of the most unfair and most gerrymandered states in the nation. What do you say about that? That's a distraction. That is the equivalent of a little kid hiding under the blanket and pretending everything outside of it doesn't exist. And the only people who can possibly support these hypocritical Democrats are the ones who have made their entire personality and self-worth wrapped up in being a Democrat, because apparently the Democrats are the ones who play by the rules, who care about fairness, who care about justice, who care about democracy. And even though it's clear as day, it's been clear as day for the past 8 years that that isn't the case, they prefer to completely ignore reality like they do with biological science. That's why a man can become a woman, and entrench themselves in this partisan fairy tale world where none of the evil, immoral, undemocratic things that they're doing are actually happening. Or at bare minimum, they will acknowledge that they're happening, but it's all justified to them because Donald Trump is just so much worse. It's already bad enough to be a pretentious, snarky, holier-than-thou, preachy individual, but it's especially off-putting when you're the very last person who should be casting any kind of judgment on anyone. But here she goes again, putting J.B. Pritzker in yet another bind. She asks him how he feels about some of the hottest people in the party, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zohran Mamdani, saying that billionaires shouldn't exist, but he's a multi-billionaire fat cat, no pun intended, himself.
Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
Governor, is that the kind of message that Democrats should be embracing?
Look, how much money you have doesn't determine what your values are. And I'm a Democrat because I believe that everyone deserves health care. I'm a Democrat because I believe we've got to fund education and have a free public education available to every kid in this country. I'm a Democrat because I believe that we've got to stand up for our democracy and against the MAGA Republicans who are literally trying to take away people's rights all across this country. So it does not matter what your income level is. What matters is what your values are, and that's what makes me a Democrat.
he's one of the good billionaires, not like the bad Republican billionaires. Here's the difference between Republican billionaires and Democrat billionaires for anybody who's interested. Billionaires who support Republicans do so because Republicans are generally pro-business. These are billionaires who are solely interested in making more money. And when billionaires make more money, that means more jobs, more investment, more money going into the economy. Billionaires who support Democrats do so because Democrats love bigger, more expansive government that is ultimately about control and power. Those billionaires don't really care about becoming richer. They care about using their money for influence, control, and power. And those are the bad, scary ones, like George Soros. Not to mention, J.B. Pritzker removed every toilet from one of his mansions so it would be declared inhabitable and he wouldn't have to pay property taxes. Like, he is the epitome of the exploitive billionaire tax cheat that the left claims to hate. They hate Elon Musk, but Elon Musk paid the largest tax return in U.S. history because that's just the kind of billionaire J.B. Pritzker is. He's bored of having $10 billion and owning the Hyatt hotel chain. So what did he do? He wanted to play around in politics, bought himself the Illinois governorship, and subsequently ruined the state and made it a really unattractive place to live. But that's the point with leftists. That's why socialism is so bad, because it's predicated on torturing your own people. It wasn't enough for J.B. Pritzker to just have control over people's lives whenever they stayed in the Hyatt. He had to have control over their lives every waking second that they're within the borders of Illinois. Now, this last clip I'm gonna show you isn't from Meet the Press. It's actually from J.B. Pritzker on Stephen Colbert, where Stephen Colbert calls him out to his face and makes fun of him for this extremely gerrymandered map in Illinois and exposes that maybe the Democrat mainstream media just hates J.B. Pritzker. Take a look.
If you're considering doing a little more redrawing in Illinois, you already have some crazy districts in Illinois. Take a look at this. Look at 17 here. It does that. Then it comes up here and it sneaks around there and goes all the way up here and then goes right over there like that. And look at this one, kind of goes whoop up there. It's like the stinger on a scorpion down here. Is this common for all states to do?
Well, we handed it over to a kindergarten class and let them decide.
Okay, and that's the nonpartisan group that does this
Absolutely.
for you guys?
That's our independent commission, you know. That is, yeah. I mean, look.
So because all states, to a certain extent, do this, why is what Texas doing particularly egregious in this case?
I mean, look how uncomfortable J.B. Pritzker was during this. And he tries to lighten the mood by saying, oh yeah, a bunch of kindergartners drew our map. Because again, they're all hypocrites. This is funny to them. There's no consistency in their morals. He doesn't care about having an extremely unfair map. In fact, that's what he wants. That's what all the Democrats want. They're just enraged that this is happening at a time where they can do absolutely nothing about it. And they're being so loud and fearful about this issue because they also realize they have extremely gerrymandered maps. It's going to be hard, if not impossible, for them to squeeze any more Democrat juice out of those maps. And if they go through with redistricting, they pose the actual real threat of just giving Republicans some more seats. They call the Texas mid-decade redistricting unprecedented, even though it's not. I've shown you guys in multiple videos how the Democrats did it in 2016, but they don't care that Biden being brain dead for 4 years was unprecedented. They don't care that importing 20 million illegal immigrants into the country and putting them on government welfare was unprecedented. They don't care that scrapping biological reality and eliminating women's spaces in sports is unprecedented. They don't care that Biden giving preemptive pardons to his entire family the night before he left office was unprecedented. They don't care that sending the FBI to raid a former president's house over classified documents is unprecedented. And they sure as hell don't care that Kamala Harris being their nominee without a single primary vote was unprecedented. But to quote big round J.B. Pritzker, nah, that's a distraction.